It's another video from Ozzy's Robot. Brought to you by the Banana Collection.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome back for the book review conclusion of Battery Toys. Yes, we are on the final part 3 of the slog. I'm going to try to make this quick, so get comfortable, my friends. I'm still drinking my seltzer water from a La Croche, and I hope you're enjoying your steaming cup of coffee this morning and or your tea, and clanking it and stirring it and sweetening it and creaming it up, whatever it is you might be doing, as I toss my keys aside and get ready and get focused, because now I'm in control of your screen. So hope that your lazy boy, your Barco lounger, is adjusted. You've stirred and clanked enough, and you have that Slim Jim or a hot dog in your hand, or maybe a breakfast burrito or a croissant. Man, I remember Vi de France used to make these delicious ham and cheese croissants that were absolutely perfection, and they were good for breakfast or lunch or even dinner. And that was in the Fort Lauderdale Mall in the 80s. So I'm sure by now Vi de France probably disappeared, and the ingredients have also shifted to some kind of bug-based Bill Gates crap. So anyway, without further ado, my friends, so we've come to the coolness, the robots and astronaut part of Battery Toys. This was the collection of F.H. Griffith, and it was the part of the collection, which I'll review this separately, but this led to one of the most epic auctions by Sotheby's in 2000, which is this. The Important Robots and Antique Toys from the estate of F.H. Griffith. December 9th, 2000. I dragged my oldest son at that auction. And let me just flip a page of Griffith. He was a cantankerous but very focused old fellow. He was very astute mechanical bank collector, among other things. I believe he used to write articles, and he had a huge lot of iron toys as well. So he wasn't just focused on the tin toys. He also had a lot of cast iron. So anyway, little did I know in 1986, when this book came into my possession, that this was his collection, essentially, and that I would actually end up owning a couple of pieces. The reason I won't focus on the Sotheby's is that's a video in and of itself. So let's talk about these robots and astronauts, because or else I will ramble on forever. Now, you have the rare version of the Marx Electric Robot and Son right there. Let me just I'm going to see if I can keep this stable. This gray and maroon version, astute collector Hank Gosses from the Netherlands, who's since passed away, he had never even seen this version. I used to speak with Hank long distance, when long distance was expensive, and then through correspondence, which I'm going to go over some letters, a lot of letters I have from Hank, handwritten letters. Back when writing letters was a form of communication that's probably lost on the masses, but it was a very intimate and personal way of doing things. And when I mentioned this particular version, because the common version of the Electric Robot and Son was red and black, he was shocked and amazed that he had never seen this before. And I don't know, it might have been the picture from this particular book that I sent him somehow. I don't know if it was digital or what, or a copy, and he was amazed that it never had come across. So maybe it was a version that was uncommon in Europe. But be that as it may, then he was happy to know that there was another version. Let me put this, let me try to clear some space here. There. So next to him, and it's funny because, again, by default, if you noticed, in one of my lower level cases in my main toy room, I have the same thing. I put this big answer game robot next to the Mark's Electric Robot and Sons, just because of the sheer size and dimensions, and they sort of fit. So again, it was kind of weird the way great mind collecting minds think alike. Let me move the camera over a little bit here. So back in 2000, well, probably even before, when this book was written, let's see if I get some of the glare off of here. Maybe I don't need this light on there. I'll just put the light on periodically if I feel I need it. The Robbie Space Patrol was considered one of the holy grails early on. I think it's still highly desirable, but at the peak, this toy had reached $25,000, give or take. And that was one of the reasons MTH, and keep in mind, these are prices that are like in the 90s, maybe late 80s, 90s, which is a ton of money. If you go after inflation today, what the hell is that, like 50,000 by today's standards? So the Robbie Space Patrol and Mr. Atomic, which I think is actually, to me, kind of harder to find than the original Robbie Space Patrols now. And by the way, this came in a light blue version and a darker blue. Let's see if I can put the light on while I'm doing this. Nope, can't do that. Anyway, so MTH made the reproductions of this, a really excellent reproduction of this, mind you, which now goes usually consistent. I mean, it came out at $500 retail, and it's a $2,000 toy, give or take a few $100 all day long for the reproduction. The one thing about the reproduction, they didn't have a good copy of the box, so their box is very dark. It's missing the logo down here. I don't even see the logo here. I'd have to really zoom in up close. But I think if they had to do it over, they probably would have picked a different toy. But back when this book was written, that was one of the key toys to have the Robbie Space Patrol. Now, obviously, he stayed focused on these Robbies, as you see here. And I could tell you, Al Rosen, who came to my house, Mr. Mint, who also passed away, sadly, I had this beautiful silver Robbie. These are much harder to find than the black. And he just was relentless until I succumbed and sold him a few toys, because he was the guy that would come with literally a briefcase full of money and just sell it. And finally, I acquiesced and sold him the silver. And now I don't have one. So see, sometimes, you should hold on. And I have people looking, but you want to get the silver if you can. And you can see here, he grouped together all his Robbies. I have a couple of black ones. These wingtips, you can't really see. These are like push pins, and they have these knurled knobs. I kind of like those better. Those are the earlier ones. Down here, you have a more common piston, these Space Troopers, and the Planet Robot, all Robbie inspired. Cool. I like all the Robbie robots, but I'm not as obsessed. There were collectors that collected nothing but Robbie toys, which is cool. You can make a fantastic Robbie collection if you want just Robbie toys, and they still make them to this day. So over here, I remember looking at this Man in Space. It's a great toy, very, very hard to display though, because this is on a wire. It runs off the remote. The propeller spins, and it's also very fragile. You have to somehow be able to suspend the toy, which is not easy to do in any kind of case. And the remote has a lot of nice lithography, this cool spacey background. If you have a lot of room, it's really nice, and you can suspend it without looking obnoxious in a case. But if not, just to say you have it is good. I think I don't even know if I have it anymore, to be honest with you. There's another satellite version of this toy too. Now this Lantern Robot's always been one of my favorite boxes. I'm gonna get this up close. Just absolutely love that. To me, it's like that blockhead, early style 50s. I have a 1957 toy catalog that also shows the toy being advertised back in the day. So 1957, that's what, 66 years ago now. Absolutely love that toy. They made that in a gold version. I don't know if that's in here. Maybe when I turn the page, I'll see. Not yet, anyway. Over here, and then maybe I'll walk you through. You have a couple of, well, here's your astronauts. You have the two versions, the high bounce, which came out first. Then they kind of cheapened it, took away the remote, took away the door that opens and shoots out the balls from the chest. made the NASA logo. No remote, but still very cool. I actually have the prototype, the hand-painted prototype of this toy that came from a well-known collector in a trade scenario. And, I have both of these as well. So maybe I'll walk to that case. After this video, I'll show you a few of these. Beautiful astronauts here. I love this little red guy. Is very, tough to find in, mint condition and definitely in the box. I'm happy to have all these boxed. Everything here, as a matter of fact, I have in the box. In fact, I have, I think, 3 of these now boxed original. And I'm not a hoarder. It just happened that they came to me, so I'll eventually divest myself. But I like to keep them for trade. Out of these 3 astronauts, the green one is exceptionally hard to find. But the red one has its own unique box. The blue and the green have the same box, so they're very cool though. But the green one, if you want to have the set, and I did the exact same thing, displayed them like that. And I love the astronauts almost as much as the robots. Maybe a shade less, but again, more beautiful astronauts. These big Dia or Cragston astronauts on the ends here, they also made a version with a little kid's head, and I'll show you those as well. The Cragston Great Astronaut. It's another very cool one. They made the television robot version of this as well. So this is the astronaut version. All beautiful toys from the 60s. These 3 guys, absolutely beautiful, stunning. They look like Easter Island heads. You had the Missile Man, which is the one at the left. The Moon Explorer in the middle, and the Rocket Man, the head lifts up, and there's an astronaut head in there. So it's kind of like... you wonder, is he an astronaut or a robot, this particular one? But the design is very, very cool. I think classic, iconic even. Here, of course, is your gang of 4, the big Macedonia 15-inchers. You have your Sonic robot, your Target robot. They call this also the train robot because it makes the woo-woo sound. This is your Target robot because you shoot him. And I think that on the box it's just called Shoot 'em. I have a long video of him. This, of course, is your Lavender robot. What I love about the Lavender is it's that perfect 50s style lavender color. They should have made a teal version. And then, of course, you have the Radicon robot. My guess is that Griffith, at the time of this book, did not have the Machine Man. I think he probably came across it after. That's why it's not in this book. But I it's tough. I love all of these for various reasons. And I've always said the Machine Man, even though I have the record-setting one, probably the nicest one in the world. But, outside of the rarity and the fact that if you're a completionist, you want the gang of 5, or is there 6? Probably my favorite would be the Radicon, just because he's so industrial looking. But it's so hard to overlook this Picasso-style lithography on the chest. It's so cool. It looks like an abstract painting. So it would be tough to pick a favorite. But these 2 would probably be. So the Machine Man at least does have that lithography style. But I like the pink too, believe it or not. I almost wish that the Machine Man was in pink. Because you also have the red sign. And this has a different head, which is also cool. But they're all beautiful. And then this has the coolest function. And this is the only one whose body is completely lithographed. And by that, I mean these are panels here. These panels come off. This particular robot, all the lithography is right onto the toy, all the way to the edges on the side. So it's not on removable panels like these here. Well, this is just textured finish, which is very cool. Crinkled textured finish on this Radicon, almost like the Hemi head valve covers. Now, these toys here, the Jupiter is one of the rarest of the rare. Let me fly the camera over there. At this auction, I believe this toy sold for $42,000 in 2000. So you're talking about some serious coin 23 years ago, 22 really, 22 and counting. This Mighty Robot, this is part of a gang of 5 different robots also. 5 versions of this. They're missing, this one's known as the, the Radical, what's the white one? Is the The white one is the, oh, hell, it escapes me. Chief Smokey, Mighty Robot, Radical Robot, Chief Robot Man. I'll have to go look at it. I forgot what the white one is called. Is it Moon? The Moon Robot? I don't know. I'm getting old and senile. But anyway, I actually have this toy from the auction. I had bought it. Then a collector friend of mine in Italy just begged me and begged me and begged me until I acquiesced and had sold it to him years after the fact. And then I finally got it back. I was like, no, give me back my toy. So I have the toy, bought it originally from this auction, sold it for a while and got it back. I'm happy to say. And on these top toys, the Mr. Robots, there's also the red version. I can't believe I'm like spacing out on the white toy there. Anyway, it's just funny. These Zoomer style robots you can see up here. Get the camera up there. They came in a lot of flavors. There's still a couple missing there, but they're very iconic, you know, kind of a hollow look, a hollow expression, blank expression. And that's probably the ones that are missing, the ones without the lighted eyes, the ones that just have the gels behind there. And then there's also a wind-up version of that. And I have all these. Maybe I will fly through that, you know, these toys as well. But you can see here, to me, like the best of the best is like the musical drummer robot here, which at one time, I think there was a couple of examples that sold for over 20,000, mint in the box. And then the radar robot. I have both versions of this. So the radar robot, just if you're wondering, they made it with this remote and this remote, this particular robot. So it came in 2 flavors. Over here, you have the wheelbarrow robot. I have, I think, 2 or 3 of these, and it took me 3 to get one perfect one. The forklift robot, which is a little, with his cart in there, which is kind of cool. One of the probably most valuable of these Horikawa. Here's a Remco Lost in Space robot that they've made a zillion color versions of this. And then this is one of those Hong Kong Lost in Space robots, which, you know, common, inexpensive. Now he has a Tetsujin, kind of a newer one. It's, I'm not sure which. This one is a tin and a plastic. So I'm kind of curious where that came from. I'll have to ask Josh if he sees this video, what the story is with this Tetsujin. Of course, the common R35. This is the golden Roto robot next to him. The R35 is one of the affordable vintage toys from the 50s you can get. The talking robot, which I believe I did do a video on, that says 3 phrases. The mic robot, which you speak into a mic and it kind of transmits through the chest, but it's usually garbled. And then, of course, the piston head robot, which is very cool for a Horikawa robot. I think kind of underrated, but it's really nice detailed dial head. So moving right along here, there's not a lot on this, so hopefully it'll be quicker. He's got some characters here. Moonlight Mask, Major Matt, Mirror Man. He called it Miller Man. I guess he was drinking Miller beers back then. I'm thinking that's a typo. I don't think I have the Moonlight Man. Not that I care, but oh no, maybe I do. I have Moonlight Man toys though. I don't know if I have that particular walker and if that's a battery up. Then here's the version with the child's head I was talking about of the. Speaking about of the big Dia astronaut. Now we're transitioning here. You got the blue smoking robot. This is the version that's, again, highly desirable. Blue and green, the 2 most coveted ones. I would say green is a shade above the blue, but they're, you know, like A1 and A2. You have your Wheel-A-Gear robot here. 2 versions of this. You have the Wheel-A-Gear and then the Blink-A-Gear. And then you have here you have a Roscoe astronaut. They made this also in red. Kind of like them both. So if you stick with me to the end, I'm going to walk through a lot of cool robots and space toys. Get this down here. So now you have 2 of the 3 Mr. Mercury versions. You have this gold one, and you have the one with the light on the head that doesn't actually light up. It's aesthetic. And then they had a blue version without the light on the head. So there's 3 versions of that. You have this TV robot. I don't think I did a video on that. I have the red one that came in red and this brown. And here's an original Mr. Atomic, which I don't have an original Mr. Atomic, if you could believe it. I just haven't found an example that I like close enough, you know. I mean, excuse me, I have to have a drink. It's hard to ad lib for all this time and not even take a break and just wing it out of your head. Okay, Robot Tank Z. There's one of these that actually speaks in English. That's the one that I'd want over all the others. I do have one somewhere. I don't know if it's the one that speaks. Then, of course, you have the Space Commander, which I have that in the box. Probably one of my favorite Horikawas. Of course, you have your original Thunder Robot, which they have reproduced, and Dino Robot, which they reproduced. But if you can get the originals, that's the way to go. The Thunder Robot is one of the most iconic robots. I'm going to give it another look. That's the one you want to have. And again, keep in mind, these were all at the Sotheby's auction. You have your two directional robots. You have the green and the blue. I have both of those. I spaced on the names of those as well. I was calling them Radical Robot for some reason. I don't know. It's like I'm losing focus, losing track here. Then, of course, you have your Topolino Robot, which is actually called Radar Robot on the box. Very rare and desirable. I'm trying to think if he had the box for this. When I go through the catalog, I will find out. And I believe this at its peak sold for close to $20,000. The Door Robot, another staple, kind of Robbie-inspired, beautiful toy. In its peak, also, you know, 4 or 5. I think I've seen it sell as high as 6 to 7,000 in a couple of crazy auctions. But then the Robot 8, which I hope I've done a video on. Pretty sure I have, with that kaleidoscope chest. That's, you know, a $10,000 toy, more or less, mint in the box. I mean, and it could fluctuate a couple of thousand in either direction, but that has not. That's extremely rare, extremely desirable, and not available that often in the box. I think a lot of the auctions that have them, it's just recycled collectors that die, and you know, they resurface. The little mini robot tank here, it's kind of a common toy. You don't see it that often, but it's, you know, they're not that hard to find, both of these tanks. It's kind of odd to me that they put this dome easel back in the middle, because that's rare and desirable. I have that in the box. It's a beautiful robot, lithography, the action, the dome. Usually, you know, could be missing. There's a little gasket on top of there, or like a metal washer to make it complete. That's a very cool robot. And over here you have the Golden Lantern Robot that I was telling you about. You know, we showed you the blue one. And I was always inspired to put the three of them together. I don't know why he put this Mr. Robot Mechanical Brain next to these two. I would have put the blue Powder Robot or Lantern Robot, even though they're just called Robot. I think, to me, that's the way you would display those three. But for whatever reason, he opted to take a picture that way. Now over here you just have more Horikawas. Not a lot to get into. I kind of think the Mars Explorer here is probably the key piece there. But these are all pretty cool. You know, I think they're slowly picking up. You know, some of the rare Horikawas can go for some big money. And, of course, you have your ideal Robot Commando. If you haven't seen the commercials on YouTube, look at the vintage commercials. I mean, there's tons of these. They're ubiquitous on eBay. You could find them. Finding a perfect working one is a different story. But, you know, it's, if you have the room. Same with this Peepo. I've had it before. It's enormous. I could probably have it as a floor filler now if I came across one. You know, the boxes of these aren't that great. Of all these kind of big, you know, bulky robots, I kind of like my Big Lou. That's what I have on the floor. Now we start getting into kind of like the cheaper stuff. So I won't spend hardly any time on these. You got your Laughing Robot, your R, your Mr. Lamb. You know, the Hong Kong see-through robots are always kind of cool. I think he's got in the middle a Chrome Dome there and the Lunar Spaceman. You know, stuff you could pick up relatively cheap. Now, Explo actually is a cool robot. They're pretty, you know, it's $500-600 I think for a good Explo in the box. They walk and they actually kind of like explode and fall to pieces, which is sort of cool. Of course, the Daleks up top from Doctor Who. I never really watched Doctor Who, so I'm glad in a way because, like, from what I see from Nerdrotic and everyone else, they ruined the show. So I'm not worried about it. It sucks in a way because I would have loved to have actually kind of like retroactively went and watched some of these shows, but they kind of like, from what I understand, they wokenized them, and it's not going to be something I want to invest time into now, knowing that they kind of redid the origins or retconned them or all that BS. Anyway, here's some cheaper robots. Again, another one of these Tetsugens here. I'm trying to think what there's not really a proper explanation for that Tetsugen in the middle. Anyway, so then, that's it for the robots and astronauts. He has some miscellaneous vehicles. I think at the end of that auction, so like just, to give you context, I think the Sotheby's auction took his best stuff, and then there was a company called Weiss Auctions, and they sold hundreds of toys that I think were like his cheaper items. So you can see here I think I've shown you those 2 motorcycles I have, some more of his common battery toys. Not actually super common, but these TV vehicles are actually very cool and desirable. There's the merry-go-round truck. I recall seeing it before, and I had mentioned in one of my, this is the final one of these videos, but I guess he did have it after all. These trains are $10 a dozen. You could pick these up for peanuts if you like trains. Go on eBay. One of the things I'm considering doing is when I eventually start live streaming, going on eBay, and I'll kind of give you suggestions what I think would be good buys live time. You can actually look at the auctions with me. So I don't get too political and piss people off. I have to have a distraction. Here's some cool boats, Again, if you have the room, I have the pirate ship. I don't have Captain Kidd. They're kind of like the same. I like the one I have, but Now I do have that Mars rocket. I'm glad he went into now space vehicles. Now it's funny because I bought this Canto Space Patrol tank. I bought that actual toy at the Griffith auction. That's another one, along with that mighty robot. And, the thing is that these toys were really the highlights. The other toy, I've got this after the fact. That toy right there, the robot tractor with the light on his head, that's another one of the toys from this actual auction that I owned. But I kind of buy these after now. If I see them at an auction that they came from the Griffith collection, I kind of put a little more weight and emphasis on them. Oof. Getting tired. I'm getting tired of even yammering here. All right, so we're almost at the end here. Cars. I have this car. I don't have the RAI car because they made the Italian car. I wanted the Italian version as an Italian, but they don't have it. Anything else that's cool here? Cars are cars. Not much that I could say. Again, for me, it's a display problem. I have this huge police car. I haven't decided what to do with it. It's as big as the big Atom Jet car. But he was very well rounded. He had a very diverse collection. These cars like you would think the Corvettes and the Mustangs, popular cars would have been worth more, but they're actually not. They're very inexpensive relative to some of these other. Even if they have cool box art, some of these cars I've picked up, because I like the box as much or more than the actual toy. Now that looks cool, that Mercedes-Benz with the opening trunk. I don't usually see that too often with the battery cars. I think maybe some of the Bandai cars like that might be worth a few bucks. Of course, with the box. That Volkswagen here looks kind of late model. We're almost at the end, my friends. So some of these, I've never looked for it. Not something I'd buy, but, like that Volkswagen. So I have no idea, the kind of money that something like that would bring. I know there's people that like specific style vehicles, like that Volkswagen pickup might appeal to just an actual Volkswagen collector that might have that. Again, if I had a vintage Porsche or a Jag, like I might buy some of those. You would see that at the car shows all the time. People would buy the actual old toys of their cars. A Citroen. I always like the Citroen style. I can't vouch for their reliability. I would have to think they're an absolute piece of junk mechanically, like most of the French cars, but I can't say with any certainty. But that is their Highline car. Here's a Camaro, sister of the Camaro, Firebird. So it's kind of easy to identify. So many cars, though. So many cars. I would bet like some vintage Hot Wheels probably blow these away in value. And here's the Gyron, of course, which I do have. Corvair. That must be a concept car. So now you have the mini windups, which, this inspired me to get some of those mini windups. Here's a little Frankenstein. And honestly, some of these mini windups are actually much rarer. Somebody commented they didn't know that Garlou had the little baby wind-up Garlou. I've never seen the little, I think maybe once I saw the little 007 Aston Martin. Now, when you're comparing these like superheroes, they're actually not that mini compared to like that little mini car. That's actually a clever display. I don't recall like the vintage wind-up matte. That's probably pretty rare. And Ultraman Leo. I don't have an Ultraman Leo. Here's just some comparisons. Again, some of the mini wind-ups. I would love to see. I don't have a Rembrandt monkey. I used to have it mint in a box. I don't now. And I would like to get both of them. I like both of those. I think it's very cool to display the minis, the wind-ups, and the battery toys. Caterpillars, if you're into bugs. Tigers. They made so many of that style of, like, not only the bartender, they made the hot dog man, clowns, and all kinds of stuff. Fred Ondino. Funny thing is the mini wind-up of that Fred looks bigger than the Fred on that giant Dino. Couple more. I can go by these quick. Now these would be cool because I have like the dressmaker and the typist, so I came across them. And they're, for some reason, they're very cheap. We're almost at the end stage. I have that stupid buttons that doesn't work, even though he looks pretty mint. I didn't realize they made a goofy little wind-up. And I have both of those Kongs. And then finally, we're going to wrap this up with some boxes. Yay, we didn't have to go until like 40 minutes. Oh, Mystery Moon Man. Jeez Louise, thank God. That was the white version of the Chief Robot Man. I was like, what the hell was the white one called? Mystery Moon Man. I know I'm like shaking this camera a little bit, but I can't help it. So here's just some of the box art. You know what? I'm going to show you something. Because this bears reading. With many collectibles, buying an item with its original box is a bonus. Some battery toy collectors may have taken that a step further. They will simply not buy the toy that doesn't have its original box. That's pretty much me when it comes to the battery toys. It may seem unreasonable, but most Japanese boxes are nice enough to collect in their own right. Colorful, attractive, great artwork. Sometimes the box is more interesting than the toy, that's for sure. And yada, 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 yada. And some of them serve as the backdrop, so, hold this for a sec so you could read a little more. But yeah, sometimes they could add like 10 times the value of the toy, or more. So here's your haunted house, which I have. And I like this Alley the alligator because it was almost like a cage. Yeah. Or a carrying case. There's your crawling hand box, which has the Boris Karloff-inspired Frankenstein. Is that Giras or what's his name? Of course, the Gang of Five boxes. Kind of some of my favorite. Beautiful art on these. Now my boxes are obscured here because the toys are blocking them, so there's nothing I can do about that. Love the tree box. It's interesting he chose to even show the side panel, which I do that on my videos, so. Here's your Mr. Xerox. Huh. It's interesting. He showed that car, but not even the cover. And then at the back of this toy, which this is a little bit dated now, he has a desirability chart. And he puts comments like, Buttons the dog. Very difficult to fix. So is 1 the most desirable? Let's see. How does this scale work? So 1 is very common. Now, I don't know how accurate this is. And 6 would be extremely desirable. So let's just really quick, before I wrap this up. Any 6s on here? Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Wow. He's tough, man. Damn. Okay, so this is obviously dated. Mickey Magician, he puts as a 6. Popeye and the Rowboat. I would say Popeye is a 6, not Mickey Magician. And again, this is almost 40 years ago. Whistling Tree and Walking Frankenstein. Yeah, Monster Toys, definitely 6. Snappy the Dragon, yes, definitely 6. Globe Explorer Bank, definitely not a 6. Fishing Bears Bank, definitely not a 6. 5, yeah. Gypsy Witch, 5, not a 6. So he started getting a little more generous. Craxton Astronaut. So look, he's got all the robots, you know, really, the robots are in a kind of a category separate from these battery toys. Mr. Atomic, a 6, absolutely. But he has Mr. Mercury as a 5. There's no way. No way. And what's this? Thunderbird convertible. See, I have no idea on the cars. Woof! I'm running out of steam here. So you know what? That is the end. The end of battery toys. All right, that was part 3. And like I said, at some point... Ooh, go back here. At some point, what I'm going to do is go through the Griffith auction from Sotheby's, and we'll talk about what made that auction special, the highlight of the auction, the things that flew under the radar that people didn't realize, the stuff that sold for what seemed to be a ton of money back then and turned out to be absolute steals, you know. So thank you, my friends, for your time. I hope you enjoyed the brief look, 38 minutes of this stuff. And with that, I appreciate your time. And again, if you're a lurker, don't forget to subscribe. With that, my friends, I will talk to you later. Aha, you thought I was gone. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm not. Anyway, we concluded battery toys, but I forgot I told you I was going to show you some of the toys from the robots in space. So here you go. Here's a look at some of the astronauts and the robots. So for instance, here's your Zoomer, and you can see that I have at least one more than he had here, but you know, I put them in the same kind of order that he did. There's your door robot. Here's some vehicles. He had the X9 robot car there. He also had this Robbie car with the red Robbie driver. I don't know if he showed the gold one. So just giving you a little peek. Of course, if you come to the collection, you can see a lot more. There's your Mighty 8 robot. I can't give too much away, you know, because I want you guys to be able to see. Now, here's the original Robbie Space Patrol. Some more astronauts up top there. And here's the 3 astronauts I was telling you about. I guess I didn't put my green one in the middle. There was a reason for it. I think because there wasn't clearance for the antennas. I have all the antennas. For some reason, only that red one's antenna was bent at an angle where I could fit it in there. And of course, you got some Robbies up there. There's your 2 Roscoe astronauts, and there's your big Dia astronauts. And he had the space dog too. Now, over here you see the High Bounce Moon Scout and the Colonel Haphazard. And then also you have your Gang of 5 here, your Chief Robot Man, your Mystery Moon Man, your Radical Robot, your Chief Smokey, and your Mighty Robot. And that's the one from the Griffith auction. There, of course, is a Thunder Robot. Now, let me transition over here because I think I've shown this before, but there is the prototype, the actual hand-painted prototype of the Colonel Haphazard. And then I will wrap this up with 2 things. There's a look at your 3, the Rocket Man, the Moon Explorer, and the Missile Robot. And of course their boxes are up there, all original boxes. And then finally, I was telling you how I put the Answer Game robot next to those big Marx Electric Robot and Son. And anything else I want to give you a peek at? I guess I could give you a peek of these guys too, which I think I've done it before. The Directional Robots and the Mr. Robots. So there, that's a conclusion of the part 3 of the battery toys with a look at my astronauts. A little sprinkle, if you will. So with that, thanks, my friends. And don't forget to thumb up the video if you like it and share it too. With that, I really will talk to you later now. See ya.